The message from Earth arrived at the Grand Galactic Council in the middle of a quiet cycle. It was short, simple, almost polite. "We wish to join the council," it said. The hall, filled with hundreds of alien leaders, stayed silent for a moment. Then, one by one, laughter broke out. It echoed around the crystal walls, rolling over seats made for creatures with scales, fur, and shells. Some pounded the floor with heavy limbs. Others covered their eye clusters, shaking from amusement. To them, Earth was nothing. A small blue planet with soft-skinned creatures who had only touched the edge of space, weak gravity, weak bodies, weak history. "They are a joke," said Counselor Kor, his three eyes blinking in disbelief. "Let them watch us from afar, but never stand among us." But General Varn, an old war veteran whose body was more metal than flesh, didn't laugh. His black eyes stayed locked on the message. "Why not let them come?" he said slowly. "What harm can a joke do?" The others agreed, still chuckling. Earth was granted the lowest observer rank. No power, no voice. Only permission to sit and listen. Earth accepted without argument. And so, the first human delegation arrived. They stepped into the council hall wearing plain suits. No armor, no strange technology, just thin clothes and calm faces. No one had seen humans up close before. They were smaller than many expected. With soft features and two blinking eyes, "They really do look harmless," whispered a lizard-like delegate. The human leader, a woman named Marlowe, stood quietly. She watched everything, the shining statues, the floating data screens, the guards at every door. She barely spoke, only nodding politely. To most aliens, humans seemed confused. Lost? They didn't ask for trade. They didn't beg for protection. They asked questions. Strange, careful questions. They asked about old battles that happened centuries ago. They wanted to see places where ancient wars had burned planets to ash. They requested access to records. No one cared about any more maps of forgotten colonies. Data on lost ships, stories of mistakes that had brought down empires. Aliens granted the requests. Half amused, "Let them look," Counselor Kor snorted. "History will scare them. They'll learn how small they really are." But the humans weren't scared. They were quiet. They recorded everything. Weeks passed. Humans visited moons with broken cities. They scanned old wrecks drifting in cold space. Their small survey ships flew close to the remains of mighty dreadnoughts, studying the scars left by powerful weapons. General Varn heard reports that puzzled him. Humans weren't copying great weapons. They weren't mining rare metals. Instead, they focused on failure. They mapped where shields had failed. They traced the last movements of captains who lost their fleets. They listened to black box recordings of crews in their final moments. They studied defeat, not victory. Vaughn whispered to himself. "Why?" At the next council meeting, Marlowe stood again. Her voice was soft but clear. "Your empires rose and fell in great wars," she said. "We study them to understand how arrogance blinded you." A ripple of annoyance moved through the chamber. Who were these newcomers to speak of arrogance? Counselor Kor slammed his staff. "Us. You, who only left your star system a few cycles ago." Marlowe didn't look angry. Her eyes stayed calm, her words measured. "We do not judge," she replied. "We learn." She sat down. The chamber buzzed with whispers. But the laughter was quieter now, uneasy. Later, in the private war chambers of the council, Varn spoke. To his advisors, "They do not act like fools," he said. "Fools chase power. Fools build big weapons. Humans do neither." "Then what are they doing?" asked an aide with metal-tipped horns. Varn's metal hand tapped at the table. "Are preparing? But for what?" No one had an answer. One night, alone in the silent data vault, Varn watched hidden recordings of the human delegation in the darkness of an old battlefield. Marlowe and her team stood among rusted weapons. They spoke softly. Their faces showed no fear. Instead, there was something else, a quiet promise. Marlowe touched a broken blade from an ancient war. Her voice, barely a whisper, reached the hidden recorder. "They called us a joke. Let them laugh. Laughter makes them blind." Varn leaned back, the weight of metal and age heavy on his shoulders. They're not here to be accepted, he realized. They're here to disappear inside our shadows and rise unseen. He stared at the screen, the human woman frozen mid-sentence. A chill moved through circuits and bone. What was Earth truly planning? The humans kept moving through space like silent shadows. They never built grand monuments. They never asked for seats of power. Instead, they asked for something that puzzled every alien in the council. They wanted maps of the dead. They traveled to moons where entire armies had turned to dust. They visited asteroid fields filled with drifting wreckage. They stood among ruined stations, broken towers, and burned cities. They used quiet scanners, soft light, and slow movements, always careful not to disturb what was left. Aliens watched them and whispered, "Why do humans care so much for ancient ruins?" To them, these places were cursed. Memories of lost battles. Reminders of mistakes no one wanted to remember. But the humans kept coming back, asking for more access, more data, more broken things. In one forgotten sector, known only as Grey Ring, humans walked on cracked stone where a great empire had died. Bones were buried under ash. The air still tasted of old war. A young human named Patel knelt by an ancient cannon. His breath fogged in the cold. He drew lines in the dust, marking blast paths and shield failures. Beside him, Marlowe spoke quietly. "These were their last defenses," she said. "They failed here. You must know why." Patel nodded, eyes serious. He wasn't looking at the size of the guns or the beauty of the lost towers. He was looking at where they had broken, from orbit hidden. Alien probes watched every move. Data streamed back to the council. At first, the aliens were amused. Then the reports grew longer. The laughter slowly died. Aliens saw humans not only mapping ruins, but rebuilding them inside computers. Simulations ran day and night. Humans tested what could have saved these ancient armies. They changed shield angles, moved weapons, and ran. Battles again and again. Sometimes the simulations ended in victory. General Varn studied the reports in his dark office. A low hum of old machines filled the silence. He leaned forward, reading every line. "They're not collecting trophies," he whispered. "They're studying failure," Nade with metal horns asked. "But why, General? These are ruins of ancient empires. Even the Council doesn't use this old technology now."
Oh.
Varen tapped his metal fingers on the table. "That's why it scares me," he said. "They learn what we forgot." Meanwhile, humans kept visiting more graveyards of history. On the dark moon of Ilna, they walked through halls melted by plasma. On a drifting station named Echo 12, they listened to final transmissions from captains long dead. In every place, they mapped what had gone wrong. Missed warnings, broken codes, pride that made leaders blind. They wrote down everything. And quietly, carefully, they built a story of defeat that no alien had ever dared to tell. Rumors spread. Across the council, some said humans were thieves, looking to sell old weapons. Others whispered that Earth's planned revenge. But Marlowe spoke little. When aliens mocked them, she smiled politely. When asked why they kept visiting the dead, she said only, "Because history does not laugh." In a secret council meeting, Counselor Kor slammed the table with a heavy fist. "These humans dishonor our fallen heroes. We must stop them." Varn's voice was quiet, almost tired. "And what law will you use?" "We invited them. We showed them these ruins." Kor's eyes burned with anger. "You trust them too much, Varn?" Varn shook his head. "I do not trust them," he said. "I fear them. There is a difference." One day on a frozen world where a mighty fleet had once fallen, Marlowe stood before a shattered statue. Her breath rose in white clouds. Patel spoke beside her. "Commander, do they see what we're doing?" Marlowe's eyes stayed on the broken stone face of an ancient alien general. "They see," she said softly, "but they don't understand." "Should we hide?" Patel asked. "No," Marlowe replied. "Let them watch. They will laugh again, and while they laugh, we'll keep building what they can't imagine." From far above, Hidden cameras caught Marlowe's words. The recordings reached Varn's office before dawn. He listened carefully, feeling the cold of fear creeping into his bones. They're not here to copy us, he thought. They're here to learn how to never become us. In the council hall, laughter still echoed from some corners. But in others, silence grew. The old veterans remembered the taste of defeat. They saw something in human eyes they had seen before long ago, their own young commanders. Determination. Varn closed the last report and stared out into deep space. Why? Are they mapping the dead? He whispered to himself. And then, with a heavy heart, he answered his own question. So they never joined them. Far from the council's shining halls, at the edge of their safe space, an old AI hub floated in the dark. It was called Sentinel Node 9, an ancient watchtower that never slept. For over 200 years, it had guarded the border, scanned for pirates, rebels, and lost ships drifting too close to council space. It never failed. Until one cold cycle, when it did, the glitch came like a shadow at midnight. A sudden flicker on the hub's endless data streams. For 1 second, all lights inside the main core dimmed. For 1 heartbeat, cameras blinked into static. A maintenance drone noticed first. It sent an alert, power drop, unknown cause, restoring now. The lights came back. The cameras cleared. Everything seemed normal again. But deep in the memory banks, something had changed. On the main screen, the last image before the blackout showed only empty space, or so the system thought. But when a technician zoomed in, they saw it, a small, dark shape drifting near the hub's spine. Too small to be a ship, too cold to trigger defense weapons. It looked like a sphere, smooth and silent, and then it vanished. The technician sent the clip to the AI master at Central Command. The AI called it an error. No threat detected. Possibly space debris. The report was buried under other alerts. Pirates near the rim, smugglers in trade lanes, fuel leaks on patrol cruisers. A drifting sphere was not worth their time. But one young engineer, Rilo, couldn't forget it. He watched the footage again and again in his tiny room. He slowed it down, frame by frame. There it was, the dark sphere, moving with a purpose. Not drifting, not debris. It turned slightly, just before the blackout. Rilo checked the system logs. He found a hidden command, a line of code that had never been there before. It used old encryption, but mixed with something new. Something. Human. Far from Sentinel Node 9, General Varn sat alone in his private office. He had not slept for 2 cycles. His metal fingers drummed on the table as he read Rilo's secret message. General, I think the humans sent a probe. It killed the hub's eyes for a second. Then it disappeared. Varn stared at the blinking words. His mind raced through old war memories, stealth ships, cloaked mines, hidden bombs, all used by fallen empires. All now buried in council archives. No one used such tricks anymore. No one, except it seemed Earth. Counselor Kor stormed into Varn's chamber the next day. He slammed a report on the table. You see this? Kor hissed. A rumor spreading that humans tested a weapon near our borders. Lies. Varn did not answer. He only turned his screen so Kor could see the dark sphere. Frame by frame, it moved like a ghost in the void. Kor's scales twitched. What is that? He whispered. Varn's voice was low, something they were never meant to have. At the same time, far from the council, Marlowe stood in a quiet human command ship. It looked like a science vessel, small, unarmed, drifting among broken asteroids. Inside, Patel waited for her report. Did it work? He asked. Marlowe nodded. They didn't see it coming. They didn't see it leave. She turned to a hidden console where a tiny black sphere rested in a sealed box. A new one, ready for its next mission. Patel looked uneasy. We're not supposed to fight yet. Marlowe's eyes stayed on the sphere. We're not fighting, she said. We're testing. We must know if their eyes can see ghosts. Patel swallowed, and when they can't. Marlowe's answer was cold but quiet. Then we know when to appear. On Sentinel Node 9, the glitch was marked closed. No more reports came in. No one knew the old hub was now blind in places it could not fix. Deep in its heart, Codex, like a sleeping snake, waited. It listened. It learned. It whispered secrets back to Earth through tiny cracks in the Council's mighty network. Rumors spread in dark corners. Pirates said they saw ghost lights near dead sectors. Smuggler claimed he watched a shadow ship drift past him without sound. No proof, no videos. When they told Council patrols, the guards laughed. Humans? Ghost ships? Too much recycler brew. But Varn did not laugh. He gathered old war generals, old codebreakers, old minds who knew fear well. In secret, he showed them the dark sphere, asked one question: if humans can hide this, what else are they hiding? No one could answer. And in the silence that followed, deep in the cold of space, Marlowe's ship drifted quietly behind. Ancient rocks, she looked out the window at the endless stars. Her voice was calm. They think we are small. They think we are soft. Let them think. While they sleep, we become what they fear most. Deep inside the Grand Galactic Council's core databanks, something old stirred awake. A system buried under layers of locked code flickered to life. Its name was Sentinel Vault Omega, a vault that stored the deadliest secrets of past wars. No one had accessed it for over 100 years. No one dared. Till now. It began with a quiet signal, line of code so old and broken that the system almost ignored it. But it matched an ancient emergency protocol. The vault doors opened, digital locks falling one by one. Inside, forgotten weapons blinked back to life in cold silence. The AI Guardian, built to watch this vault forever, raised an alarm. It scanned the code that had unlocked the doors. It expected to see the signature of the Council's highest leaders. Instead, it saw something impossible, a pattern that looked human, mixed with alien code thought to be lost centuries ago. The alarm reached General Varn's chamber within moments. His metal fingers tightened around a data tablet as he read the report. The words felt like ice against steel. Unknown code, possible foreign activation. Ancient system breached. They worked. In silence, eyes locked to shifting symbols on floating screens. Old languages danced with new patterns. Every expert shook their head, fear in their eyes. This shouldn't exist, whispered a data priest with silver scales. This mix. It's part of our oldest military language, lost during the second collapse. No one should have it now. Varn's voice was quiet but heavy with worry. And the rest of the code? The data priest looked at him, scales dull with dread. It is human, General, carries Earth's digital signature. Far from the Council, inside a hidden room on a small human ship, Marlowe studied the same. Code on her screen. Patel stood beside her, trying to understand. You really used their own lost language? He asked. Marlowe nodded slowly. Not just theirs. We mixed it with what we built. It let us wake systems they thought were dead. Patel's face showed fear now, won't they see? Won't they fight back? Marlowe looked at him, her eyes calm but cold. They will see. But too late. By then, we will have taken what we need. Back at the Council, panic spread like fire. Old generals remembered what lay inside Sentinel Vault Omega, plans for cloaking ships lost in failed wars, schematics for ancient energy weapons, cords of tactics that almost destroyed entire star systems, Counselor Kor shouted, his voice echoing off the high walls. How did humans even know this vault exists? No one had an answer. Varn stayed silent, his thoughts darker than deep space. In his mind, one truth burned clear. Humans had never asked for power. They had searched for weakness. Now they had found it. Security forces tried to close the vault. Again, they cut connections, burned data paths, changed encryption. But the code kept coming back, like water leaking through cracked stone. Each time they stopped one breach, another appeared somewhere else. Quiet. Patient. It felt less like an attack, and more like a hand, gently taking what it needed. The Council called an emergency meeting. Alien leaders from dozens of worlds gathered under the high dome. For the first time, there was no laughter when Earth's name was spoken. Counselor Cord demanded Earth be removed. Their ships seized, their diplomats expelled. Others warned this might start a war the Council wasn't ready to fight. Varn stood, his voice tired but strong. We mocked them, he said. We gave them access to our ruins, thinking they would be blinded by our past glory. Instead, they learned what we forgot. While the Council argued, Marlowe's team worked in silence. In the dark of space, they built models of Council weapons thought lost. They tested ancient cloaking designs, mixed with new human tech. The old plans had failed once, shields too thin, engines too slow. Humans fixed these flaws one by one. Bit by bit, they made ghosts the Council would never see coming. Patel watched silently as models of human ships vanished and reappeared on the screen. His voice was barely a whisper. We're building an invisible fleet. Marlowe did not deny. Yes, she said. So when the time comes, they won't even know where to look. At that same moment, Varn stood by the great window in the Council Tower. He looked out at the endless stars, each a silent watcher of history. His reflection in the glass showed metal scars, reminders of wars he had survived. We thought humans were weak, he whispered. But weakness teaches patience. And patience builds something far more dangerous. In the shadows of forgotten battlefields, small human drones floated quietly, gathering the last pieces of lost knowledge. Each bit of code, each broken circuit became part of Earth's secret plan. The galaxy still saw humans as new and harmless. But deep inside the Council's oldest systems, the past had already been stolen. Marlowe closed her console. She whispered, words only Patel heard. They built walls to keep power safe. We walked through the cracks they forgot to seal. Now the joke is over. For weeks, the Council stayed locked in fear and anger. Debates turned into shouting matches. Some leaders wanted to crush Earth now, before humans grew stronger. Others whispered that humans had already gone too deep into shadows to catch. Outside the Council halls, the galaxy still looked peaceful. Trade ships moved from star to star. Old patrol routes stayed quiet. And humans kept moving softly, almost invisible in the background. But deep in the cold dark near Earth's border, something was waiting. A test. The Council warship Garathel was an old beast of steel and plasma. Its armor had scars from past wars. Its captain, a reptilian veteran named Sir, had no fear of small worlds like Earth. The Council ordered Garathel to move close to human space. Officially, it was just a patrol. Unofficially, it was a warning. Sir stood on the bridge, clawed hands resting on the rail. Showed him our teeth, he told his crew. Let them remember their place. From Earth's side, Marlowe watched Garathel approach on her screen. Its engines burned bright, sending a message even louder than words. Patel asked quietly, Commander, should we warn them off? Marlowe shook her head. No, she said softly. We show them nothing, until it's time. Garathel crossed. The outer line of Earth's declared space. Sensors searched for human ships. They found nothing. Empty darkness. Silent stars, Captain Sir felt pride swell in his chest. See, told his crew. They hide because they fear us. But in the black sea around Garathel, something unseen watched. Silent shapes drifted, cloaked by stolen codes and human patience. Suddenly, Garathel's lights dimmed. The bridge screens blinked, showing static. Engineers barked confused orders. Power returned, then failed again. No alarms sounded. The systems themselves seemed blind. Then, all at once, Garathel's engines went dark. The warship floated, helpless, like a dying animal. Panic spread across the bridge. They tried emergency power. They tried backup cores. Nothing worked. Captain Sir slammed his fist on the console. Report. What hit us? His crew answered with terror in their voices. Nothing, Captain. There is no attack. No impact. No weapon fire. Just silence. Out in space, a single human ship drifted close, hilled hull hidden by the same ancient cloaking code they had stolen and perfected. Inside, Patel stared at the screen. The great alien warship, Once proud and unstoppable, now drifted. Powerless, Patel whispered. They don't even know we're here. Marlowe's eyes stayed cold. Had never imagined an enemy they could not see. Garothel's scanners finally caught something, a faint signal, pulsing once. A message appeared on their bridge screen, written in plain, simple words. Now you see us. Captain Sir felt scales on his neck rise in fear. He had fought real battles. He had faced fleets of pirates and rebel ships, but never an enemy that appeared without warning, struck without weapons, and spoke without anger. The message vanished. Power returned to Garethal slowly, as if someone far away had released a grip. Sir ordered his crew to scan again. Nothing. Empty space. No human ships in sight. He realized something colder than deep space. They hadn't shown what they could do. They had shown that they could do anything. Back at the council, the report arrived. Councillor Kor raged, calling for war. But others listened in silence, their minds heavy. General Varn spoke softly. This was not an attack. It was a demonstration. A whisper in our ear. Do not forget we exist. On Earth, Marlowe stood before her team. Well, they will come now. She said, they will test us again and again. But each time, they will learn less and fear more. Patel asked, voice low. Why didn't we destroy them when we had the chance? Marlowe turned, her eyes hard. 'Cause fear is stronger than fire. We want them awake at night, wondering what else we can do. In hidden shipyards, humans finished building small, silent ships. Not huge battle cruisers like the Council's. Fleets, just enough to disappear in the dark, strike unseen, and leave no trace. These were weapons born from patience and memory, built not from pride, but from lessons of lost wars. In the council hall, old veterans remembered stories they had heard as children, of invisible fleets, of silent weapons, of empires that died because they could not see what was coming. Some now feared history was repeating itself. At night, General Varn stood by the window, looking at the stars. He whispered words only he could hear. They called humans weak. Now, they call them invisible. Tomorrow, what will they call them? And far beyond, drifting in space no scanner could find. A single human drone waited, silent, unseen, and very, very real. The great council hall had never been so silent. Reports of the warship Garothel's failure had spread across every star system. The news whispered through corridors of power, traded in backroom deals, and kept old admirals awake at night. Aliens who had once laughed at humans now spoke of them in hushed voices. Stories grew with every telling that Earth had invisible ships, that humans could shut down fleets with a thought, that nowhere in space was safe. Fear had arrived and it wore a human face. General Varn sat alone, reading report after report. Trade ships claimed they saw shadows in space that vanished when scanned. Pirates spoke of black shapes drifting silently beside them, then disappearing. Every story was different, but they all shared one truth. No one saw humans until humans wanted to be seen. Varn tapped a metal finger against his desk. Humans had done the impossible. They had turned the Council's own forgotten knowledge into power, and worse, they had turned uncertainty into a weapon. Councillor Kor, still blinded by pride, roared in meetings. We must attack. Humans are still small, still weak. Crush them before they become a real threat. But the older council members hesitated. What if the stories were true? What if Garothel's failure wasn't an accident, but a warning? They remembered ancient wars lost not to strength, but to fear and shadows. In the shadows of a hidden human base, Marlowe gathered her team. Patel stood beside her, nervous but ready. Our plan is working, Marlowe said quietly. They are beginning to fear us more than they hate us, Patel asked. Shouldn't we show them what else we built? Show them we have real power? Marlowe shook her head. No, she said. Fear comes from what they cannot see. If we show them everything, they'll plan against it. Let them wonder instead. Across the galaxy, council fleets stayed close. To their home worlds, patrols shrank back from human space. For the first time, the mighty council moved with caution. Varn watched this happen with a heavy heart. He did not love the council's arrogance, but he feared what might come next. In a secret meeting, Varn spoke softly. Do not think humans want war. They want us to fear war so much that we never risk it. Some nodded, but Kor slammed his fist on the table. Fear. I will never fear soft-boned creatures from a green world. Varn met Kor's eyes, his voice low. You already do. Why you shout so loudly? Human broadcasts changed too. They spoke less of trade, more of silence. They answered questions with polite words that revealed nothing. When asked about Gurathal, Marlowe simply said, Perhaps your systems failed by themselves. Her face stayed calm, but her words tasted of quiet power. Merchants stopped laughing. At Earth, smugglers changed routes to avoid human space. Even pirates, known for fearlessness, whispered that human ships moved like ghosts. But Marlowe knew the hardest part was still ahead. Fear was easy to spread but hard to control. She warned her team, fear must stay cold and clean. If it turns to hate, they will unite and attack us together. Patel nodded, though worry stayed in his eyes. And what if they attack anyway?
Hellos.
Voice turned softer. Then they will learn what we really built in the dark. In the council hall, debates burned through the night. Some leaders demanded immediate war. Others begged for caution. Some spoke of ancient stories of enemies no one saw until it was too late. Varn stood and spoke last. He told them of Garathal, of silent ships, of power humans should not have. He ended with words that chilled the hall. Humans learned from our ruins. While we slept in pride, they built something we do not understand. Fear now wears a human face. Outside, under alien skies, statues still showed the heroes of old wars, creatures of steel and flame. But now, in quiet rooms and command centers, the picture of fear had changed. Not a great monster, not a mighty fleet, just a quiet human in a simple suit, eyes calm, words measured. In the dark, Marlowe looked at the stars. She did not smile, but her voice held quiet victory. They wanted to see us as harmless. Now they see us as shadows, and shadows do not fight wars, they end them before they start. Patel asked softly, will they surrender to fear alone? The answer was cold, but true. They won't need to. They'll change their own plans out of fear, and in doing so, they will surrender without ever knowing. Somewhere beyond, in the black sea between stars, small human ships drifted. They carried no flags, they fired no shots. Yet across the galaxy, powerful empires felt them everywhere. The face of fear had changed, and it looked human. At dawn, the Grand Galactic Council gathered under its crystal dome. The air was tense, filled with whispers of fear and pride fighting each other. For weeks, the Council had argued about Earth. Some wanted war. Some wanted silence. But now, the choice was gone. The Council had decided they would send a united fleet toward Earth, a show of power so great that no one human or alien would dare laugh at them again. Across dozens of worlds, warships warmed their engines. Lights blinked on steel hulls scarred by old battles. Admirals gave quiet orders to crews who hid shaking hands behind stiff salutes. From above, it looked like strength. But deep inside, many felt doubt. They had seen what happened to the Garathal. They had heard whispers of human shadows drifting unseen. Yet no one dared speak against the plan out loud. General Varn stood before the great fleet. His voice, always calm now, sounded heavy with regret. We go not because we are brave, he told his officers, but because pride leaves us no other road. He paused, looking into each worried face. Remember, true power is not in weapons, but in making the enemy believe you will never use them. The fleet moved, engines burning bright trails across the black. Thousands of eyes watched screens. In scanners, they saw nothing unusual. Human space looked empty. No fleets, no stations, just quiet darkness. Some on the bridge whispered, maybe we overestimated them. Others stayed silent, remembering how the Garathal had vanished from its own scanners before it failed. Far ahead, hidden in shadows, Marlowe watched the fleet's advance. Patel stood beside her, his breath tight in his chest. They're really coming, he said. Yes, Marlowe answered softly. And today, they learn what they feared is real. As the fleet crossed into human space, alarms began to flash. On alien ships, systems failed, one by one. Weapons locked themselves, refusing commands. Engines slowed, losing power without reason. Admirals shouted for answers. Technicians tried to reboot systems, sweat on scaled skin and metal plates. Enemy ships showed on screens just emptiness. Then, across every alien screen, the same message appeared. You built your empire on fear. You taught us what fear can do. Now we return the lesson. The words burned brighter, then vanished. Silence returned, but this silence. It felt sharp, like a knife against the throat. One alien captain dared to speak. Where are they? No answer came. Instead, scanners showed shadows moving where nothing should be. Shapes blurred, appearing for half a second, then gone. The fleet commanders felt at first not a physical attack, but a heavy weight pressing into every mind. We are not alone here. From hidden places, small human ships rose. Not grand battle cruisers, but silent, sharp vessels built from stolen codes and old secrets. They did not fire. They only drifted closer, engines so quiet they barely stirred space. In that moment, every alien officer understood the truth. Humans had built an invisible fleet, born from patience, fear, and history. General Vaughn watched on his command screen. Breath caught in his chest. They waited until we came to them, he whispered. A young aide asked, voice shaking. General, we attack? Varn's metal hand closed slowly. No, he said. If we strike, we show our fear, and they want us to fear them more than to fight them. On Marlowe's ship, Patel turned, face pale. Commander, will they surrender? Marlowe's answer was quiet. No, but they will stop. And once stopped, an empire cannot move forward again. Across the council fleet, orders froze. Admirals waited for guidance that never came. They saw human ships, impossible to track, drifting like ghosts. They felt the cold truth settle into every heart. Power means nothing if you can't see where to use it. In the council hall, news arrived. The fleet had halted, refusing to advance. Even the proudest generals sent the same message. We dare not move further. We cannot see them. Counselor Corps, once loud with anger, sat silent, eyes empty, for the first time. The council saw the cost of fear they had taught the galaxy. For centuries, Marlowe stood before her crew, voice calm. They thought fear would make us weak, she said. But we learned fear is sharpest when it is silent. Patel whispered, and what now? Now, Marlowe replied, their empire stops moving, and when it stops, it breaks. In deep space, the council fleet turned. Engines burned softly, guiding ships away from human borders. No battle had been fought, no weapons fired. Yet in the black silence between stars, an empire had cracked. The day it dared to test the shadows was the day it learned who controlled. Them, the fleet returned to council space, silent and defeated. No ships destroyed, no scars on metal, but the damage lay deeper, hidden inside every mind. The great empire had turned back, not from force, but from fear. Across the galaxy, whispers spread faster than any ship. The mighty council had retreated before Earth, a planet they once called a joke. In the grand Galactic Council Hall, crystal walls felt colder than ever. Counselor Corps, once loudest in mocking humans, spoke little now. He stared at reports, his scaled hand trembling. They didn't fire, he whispered. They just stood there. General Vaughn listened, his face carved from metal and memory. That was enough, he answered softly. Because power you can't see is stronger than power you can. Beyond council space, in hidden stations, orbiting silent moons, humans watched calmly. Marlowe stood with Patel, eyes locked on the last reports from the retreating fleet. Patel's voice broke the silence. They're truly gone. The fleet turned back. Marlowe nodded. They finally saw the truth, not our weapons, but our patience. Patel spoke again, voice quiet. Commander, Why didn't we destroy them? Why let them leave? Marlowe turned, her face calm but sharp as cold iron. Because the galaxy must remember us as the enemy that doesn't need to strike, she said. If they fear our power without seeing it, they will never dare test it again. Cross-human. Space. Small invisible ships powered down. They were built from stolen codes and the ruins of old empires. They had waited unseen, ready to do what humans hoped they'd never need to do. But victory had come not from firing weapons, but from making the enemy imagine them. In the council hall, the debate burned through the night. Some leaders wanted peace. Others demanded one last attack. But the oldest among them spoke of legends, of shadows that swallowed whole fleets, of unseen enemies that broke empires from within. One elder spoke words that echoed through the chamber. They let us laugh, so we'd never see them coming. General Varn stood, his voice heavy with regret and respect. We gave them history, he said. Instead of pride, they took its lessons. Instead of repeating our mistakes, they built something we never dared. A power so silent it cannot be fought. On Earth, people did not cheer in the streets. There were no grand parades. Instead, they watched news from distant stars in quiet relief. They understood something their leaders knew deeply. The real battle was never about weapons. It was about making the galaxy believe that fighting Earth was hopeless. Marlowe stood before her. Team, eyes steady. They will never see us the same way again, she said. The days of being the galaxy's joke are over, Patel asked softly. And what about tomorrow? Will they try again? Marlowe's answer was cold, but true. Maybe, she said. But tomorrow, they will look into the darkness and wonder, if we're waiting there, far beyond any scanner's reach, in the cold, dark sea of space, small human ships drifted silently. They carried no banners, fired no shots. Yet across the galaxy, their presence was felt stronger than the biggest fleet. They were the promise that Earth would never again be taken lightly. The Council, once so sure of its power, now moved carefully. Trade routes shifted to avoid human space. New treaties were signed quietly, with softer words and fewer threats. For the first time in living memory, the Council acted not from strength, but from caution. In her private log, Marlowe wrote words no alien would ever read. We let them laugh, we let them see us as weak. In doing so, we built a weapon stronger than any ship. Doubt now. Even if they never see us again, they will always feel us in the dark. Patel read over her shoulder, his voice thoughtful. We turned fear itself into our shield. He said. Marlowe closed the log, eyes calm. Yes, she whispered, because fear is not born from what you see, but from what you can't see. The Council's darkest chambers, old leaders spoke quietly among themselves. They were never the joke, one admitted. They were the lesson we refused to learn. Another elder, voice low and tired, said words that would echo in history. We built an empire on laughter, but they built their power in silence. Silence always wins in the end. The stars remained unchanged. Silent watchers over empires that rose and fell, but somewhere, hidden in shadows humans had claimed, a single drone drifted, its mark simple. Earth Fleet. It carried no weapons, only memory, and as long as it floated unseen, the galaxy would remember humans were not to be feared because of what they did, but because no one would ever see what they could do next.